All right, let's go ahead and kick off. We only have one small item on the agenda, so this should be a quick meeting today. I'm going to share my screen real quick. Can one person give me a heads up that they can see the document okay?
Sure can.
Thumbs up. Cool. All right, so the one topic that we had to discuss today was the proposed deprecation of JS component mixins. It's worth noting that this is a separate concept from required JS mixins, which are what most people use to augment front-end functionality when they're writing a plugin or a module that's trying to touch the client side. In this case, JavaScript component mixins are a similar but different thing. So the first reason that we're advocating for deprecation of these is that they have an API surface that's just going to be confusing to most, especially because of the fact that they're currently undocumented and only used in one place in core. So an example of a JavaScript component mixin that most of us should be familiar with is you just define a standard AMD module and you return a function that takes what the export was from the original module that you're, basically trying to intercept. And then you can either return a new object from here, you can return the existing one mutated, basically anything you want there. A JS component mixin has a similar but slightly different signature to it. So it's still an AMD module, but it returns a function that takes in a config for that particular JS component, and then the selector for where it's going to instantiate itself in the DOM. So this is the configuration and the selector that come from the xmage init or the datamage init directives that are rendered from the server side. So I did a super unscientific survey of a few people in the MageFront channel, and I believe the general channel on the community Slack. And I didn't actually find anyone, including people who do trainings on our JavaScript components, that was aware that this feature existed. There were multiple people internally as well who worked on the creation of JS components, and they weren't aware that this functionality existed. So the real reason we're advocating for its removal, though, more than just a confusing API surface or a kind of redundant API, but there's almost also concerns with it too. Specifically, we are using it today only for setting up the magnifier on product photos on the product page out of the box. I've had a few escalations regarding, there's also a pretty long GitHub issue about the fact that product page photos, even when they're even when you have a warm cache on the client side, still takes several seconds from the time the document's ready to render. There's a few root causes to that I've documented separately, but one of them has to do with the way these JS components sort of expose themselves. Basically, because the JavaScript components that we have on like checkout asynchronously load themselves and then render, we aren't actually aware of the fact that this JS component mixin exists or needs to be fetched and executed until we've fetched a UI component or a JS component. It's come back in, we've evaluated it, and we've seen that it has this additional configuration. So the plan that I'm advocating for is deprecating these in a future version of Magento with an eventual removal of them. We'd probably want a little bit better of an idea of who's using this, but so far with our unscientific research on it, it seems like this would be pretty low impact for most people. And making this change, the only other change we would require in core is that we would have to change how the magnifier works with Photorama, but this is a good thing. Excuse me. And this is planned work anyways, because we're making changes to how Photorama starts itself up. Excuse me. So people don't see the lag that we've saw in some of the escalations and some of the profiling we've done. So based on that, what questions or concerns does anyone have around this proposal? I will give y'all a minute to think on it just in case. And of course, this isn't just getting closed right after the call. So feel free to comment on the pull request as well.
I'm just curious, how's this mixin defined?
Yeah, I've got an example right here. So this is the example from the one place it's used in core. You'll have an Magento init script, which, like we said, there's the selector, which is that second argument right there, and then the configuration that gets passed in. So basically, excuse me, this is saying find the DOM element that matches this selector. At that point, go ahead and fetch the Mage gallery JavaScript component. And then once that's fetched, we have code right now that fetches this and passes the configuration in the selector. The interesting thing is it's not like a normal mixin in that it doesn't get a copy of this Mage gallery like you would expect with this version of Mixins. Instead, you're just getting the selector and the configuration. So anything that you would be doing with this that I can think of, we already have an API surface that covers that functionality. In this case, there would be nothing stopping you from just using our normal Mixins.
Makes sense. One thing that might be good to do is check marketplace extensions if they are using.
Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to do also because, like I said, it was unscientific, but the feedback I got from the community so far was, why is that there? Or we had no idea that was there. So I'll check the marketplace for sure, but I think it's probably likely that if we don't get feedback from anyone in the community that's seen it and we don't find it in marketplace, then we'll probably be safe on a pretty low risk removal. If we do find it in marketplace, we'll have to document the use cases that they're using it for and see if it was maybe they didn't know that there was a different way, or see if this API surface actually is, adding extensibility that can't be done in other ways. But so far, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Makes sense.
Cool. Does anyone have any other questions on this particular proposal? Cool. So in that case, feel free to leave any additional feedback, even if you're just saying that you're okay with it. Igor, probably worthwhile just to go in there too and leave your comment about scanning through marketplace. That way it's not something that we forget about or something that gets lost. And besides that, we are out of content for today's meeting. Did anyone else have anything last minute that they didn't get a chance to add that's worth discussing?
Well, I have a quick question. I was out, I think, last week. So we have 9 open pull requests. Were all of the pull requests reviewed already in previous meetings?
That is a good question. Let's take a look. I don't think they're all reviewed yet. It looks like some have approvals, so we'll need, I think 2 of these are an internal Magento employee, specifically for cloud, so we should be following.
By the way, Andrei Kasyan, are you looking at this? Yeah, I said that you're, but so you approve them? You approve them? Can you measure them? Andrei Kasyan,
yep.
You're.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
Yeah, I will merge it.
Okay. And we have 2 review approvals for support sale operation by Magento payment provider. So some of them just have to be matched, right?
Yeah.
And 2 of them don't look like they were reviewed.
Yeah, at least 2 of them need to be merged. And besides that, there's still at least a few in here that don't have much feedback yet that we should discuss. I believe this one is pretty small. Yeah, this one was super small, so everyone should be able to look at that. It might be worth, at least with MFTF one, that we pull in that team to comment on it too. So I'll send it over to Pangolins and see if they have any feedback.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a few more without reviews that most likely still need attention from people.
Okay, so can we have someone from our team, from internal team, to take one of the two non-reviewed requests to progress to review?
Yep. Yeah, we will. I'll document that offline and send it out to the team, and we'll make sure that we have someone that's taking the lead on that.
Okay, cool.
Cool. Does anyone else have any feedback to provide on what we discussed? Any questions or anything that they didn't get a chance to add to the agenda?
Well, one moment. Let me check if my tool works, and I can show you something that that I've been working on while traveling.
Cool.
So I don't know. It's more of an update, less the proposal. One moment. Let me share screen. Oh. So it's just a small thing as part of progress on component isolation. As you probably know, I have this prototype of multiple services of Magento deployed on multiple, deployed separately. And of course, if you deploy it, if you deploy multiple instances of Magento, it becomes hard to manage it. Especially, I have this. I believe that people usually shouldn't need access to SSH access to Magento instances, web application instances. So, and from that perspective, being Magento tool is not very convenient, right? So, just to quickly demonstrate. So you see, I have different pods like Magento admin, Magento catalog DB, Magento catalog instance, checkout DB, checkout instance. So those are different instances of Magento. And the tool being Magento tool, it assumes that an instance works local, that Magento instance is local to your, is on your local machine. So for example, if you want to do setup upgrade, you have to go, or setup install, you have to go SSH to that instance and run the command. So I just to quickly hack something to make it a bit more convenient to work with distributed instance of Magento, I created a local tool. So you see that it has commands like, it's very, I hacked it very quickly. It's like, so it has important things like a context add, context list. So for example, if I do context, it shows me that I have two instances, one catalog, one checkout, and I can choose which instance I work with now, and then I can load the metadata from that context. I can add the context, so I can add different instances of Magento that I will be managing by this local tool. And the important thing is that only these commands are part of this tool. All the other commands here that you can see, the information about these commands is retrieved remotely from the instance. So instance tells you what commands it has available, and so you can execute commands like, probably the instance is pretty broken. So for now, my current context sorry, something went wrong here, but but my so context list, I have context list, but so my current context is checkout, and if I do Magento setup upgrade, the command is broken because the instance is broken, but you can see that it executes commands in command remote. So in my opinion, it will be very, this tool will be very convenient for like when you have to manage multiple instances of Magento. So if you have any comments or you want to participate in this, let me know. I think it might be important. It will probably be important. This tool will be important for modularity work that we plan to do on Magento.
That's a pretty big deal. How long did that all take?
1.5 transatlantic flights.
For sure.
It's not a big problem. It's not a big tool. It's just mostly Symfony console based base tool. So the process takes long upgrade. So I don't stream the responses yet. But the added benefit of having this tool locally, if you work with Magento tool, you know that it's pretty slow because it takes. So you see that the Magento instance returns some problems with loader and stuff like that. So this is a response from remote. But the added benefit of having this tool locally is that that all commands are very lightweight. So you know that Symfony console command, Symfony console component is built the way that all commands, all command classes are instantiated when you run it. Even if you want to just list commands, it instantiates all classes. So it's very slow. And you can see that this tool, the added benefit is that it's very fast because it doesn't instantiate .com commands. It only has proxies to remote commands. So just a quick update from the thing that I've been playing with.
That looks awesome.
Yeah, it really does, man. Do you plan on using this, or do you plan on extending this to generate machine-readable configuration for deployments?
Well, at some point, yes. And the design. Oh yeah, I still haven't published. So there is a remote pull request with a proposal. I'm working on the revised version of the full proposal, and yes, that is part of the tool that we'll have to have on your local machine. So the idea is that for a developer that works with Magento, just an agency, as an agency developer, I have all of these multiple Magento instances. I want to manage them. I want to execute all of these operations with all of these different instances. So this tool allows me to just install it on my local machine, one instance of the tool, and it can work with different versions of Magento because it will go and read the metadata information from those instances. And based on versions, ideally, we'll have to this tool, because I want this to be a single tool, it will have to execute all of the administrative operations, deployment and maintenance of multiple instances of Magento.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to look at the original. Yeah, I'm gonna. Have you posted the link?
Not yet. I just this thing I finished yesterday. It's not. I can't say it's finished, but it's working. I actually use it already for myself, and I'll commit it to the repository of modularity that I already shared this. At least internal audience. Soon I'll be sharing it with external audience.
Great, thank you. Cool. And
Okay,
with that, do we have any other content that anyone needs to get in last minute since we have some extra time? Cool. If that's the case, thank you all for joining. That was short and sweet, and we will see you all next week. Take care.